Aloha, this is Clint Hansen with Maui Real Estate Radio, and you're listening to us at 11:10 a.m. on the KAOI radio group. This is our Monday morning 7 a.m. show as you're driving to work, hopefully. If not, there's many places that you can hear us. We go on a variety of podcast channels, and of course, we put it on the internet and YouTube as well. So wherever you get your podcast, definitely listen to us. Today, we are going to stop for quite a while on talking about real estate. Instead, we're going to be talking about stories of the Lahaina fire. It's important that people get their story out there and we get to help people that need it and to, know our community. Today, of course, always have Byron Yap of, actually, you changed, you're back, right? You're now with,
American Savings Bank.
yeah, ASB, American Savings Bank. Sorry, bit of a brain fart there. And today we also have, of course, Maui Mike of Maui's Beach House. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Really good. Really good.
All right, thank you for joining us. So I want to ask and start out with just the general, like, how do you know Maui? How long have you lived here? What's your connection to Lahaina and the community?
So we moved here in the mid-70s. My mom and dad were the ones who brought Kentucky Fried Chicken to Maui. And so we had a Lahaina store that a lot of the Lahaina people grew up with, the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Our Wailuku store is where Steel Wells was. It used to have a bucket going around.
Yeah, I know it.
And then we built the Kahului store. So, I've worked in that Lahaina store since I was 14. And so today I bumped into to a family that owned Nagasakos. And I was telling them that, I grew up with that store. And then they're like, well, when we used to go out to eat, our big thing was either McDonald's or Kentucky Fried Chicken. And they're like, but we wanted to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken. And so, we really felt like we bonded because our stores were nearby each other. So, yeah, that's what brought us to Maui. I went to KA school, St. Anthony, University of Hawaii, surf club in high school.
I grew up with the Nagasakos. It's funny that you bring them up. Thumper was my god brother, so
they're the heart and soul of Lahaina. I mean, they're probably the oldest family general store in the oldest town in Hawaii.
Yeah,
when you think about it. So yeah, they're definitely a fixture and amazing family, and my heart goes out to them and their family because they lost homes and everything. So
yeah.
When did you open up Maui Beach House? Tell us a little history about in the middle of Lahaina. How'd that story go?
So I opened up Maui Mike's Beach House around 2010, 2011. Prior, it was a motorcycle and exotic car rental place. And I've been teaching surfing on the Lahaina side since like 1997. And so I know I wanted to eventually have a store there. I kind of modeled it like these stores, like from like over in Oahu, I saw surf shops where they had shave ice and a surf shop and so on. And I wanted something kind of freestanding and, made out of wood and not a stucco building and, family owned store. And so, I got that spot and we do everything. We do shave ice, hot dogs, acai bowls, kind of like a general store. We rent surfboards, stand-up paddleboards, kayaks. We sold rash guards and retail items and so on. And it was just kind of a cool hangout, like everyone I've known since elementary school would cruise by and hang out and talk story. And yeah.
That's awesome.
And tell me, okay, so the morning of the fire, where were you? Tell me what happened. How did that day progress? I really want the people to understand how that day progressed for you.
So we opened the store at 8 a.m. My girl, Kimberly, who is a fixture there, called me out and said, hey, these winds are stronger than anything I've ever seen. And she says, it took her 10 minutes to walk 30 feet to the door. And she said, all our tables and our kayaks were just swirling around the parking lot. And so she said they had to have been 60 plus mile per hour. She could never see anything like it. Electricity was off. I called a few people I knew in Lahaina. They said it was off since like 6 a.m. And so I just said, hey, there's a couple of people going to drop off some boards, get them in the store, lock up and go home because the electricity's going to be off all day. So a few people had stopped by the store to check on her, and then they all drove out at 12. And at the time, Keawe Street had like a electric pole crossing the street, so you couldn't go up Keawe Street. And my friend Doug was driving out towards Pulamana on the highway, and he saw all of them drop right in front of him. So they turned him around, and then somehow he got out of Lahaina Luna Road, but there's no fire yet. And so we're sitting, at home, going, okay, well, electricity's gonna be out. And then 3 o'clock, they said there was a fire, and I don't quote me on this, but I think it's the same place that they had it in 2018, where those few homes burnt down on Lahaina. It was like the exact same place with a very similar situation where they had high winds at that hurricane as well. But, the confidence of, well, okay, it's under control, just like what they did last time, everything's gonna be fine. And then all of a sudden the reports start coming in at, 7:30. And I actually about 5 or 6, my friend Keith and this guy Johnny, they actually lived in the apartments across the street from my store, which is that road that takes you straight down to Baby Beach. And their place burnt down. They actually saw the wall on fire and their bed explode, and they got in the truck. And so they were stuck in traffic trying to get to Kahului around 5 o'clock. And I said, well, come to the house. So they're staying with us. I go, because they lost everything they had. So then I start calculating, okay, across the street's on fire, but, I'm next to that big gas tank. So I'm thinking they're not going to let that thing explode. So hopefully my store's going to be okay. And then it was just one horrific story after another, Lahaina Front Street and the apartments and so on. And then it took to the next day before anyone could actually identify that our whole area burnt down. And then, it just, it's all bits and pieces that we've heard and so on. We obviously we can't go back there until they take care of everything. So we don't really know, other than photos, what's really on the store grounds or anything like that.
And from the videos that I've seen, it looks like it's a, complete loss. There's really not a lot left other than, the slope and the foundation, skeleton of a car. And I was really kind of shocked, and I was even puzzled where it was the first times I was going by, until I saw that giant tank still right there. And then of course I saw the train too, and I was like, oh my God, like it's literally unrecognizable, the area. So I mean,
we're hoping to be hopeful, because we thought, well, it's all cement on the ground around the tank, and all our foliage had been cut down, and it's cement around the area. And unfortunately, we had all our really fun vehicles there. We had the Bug, we had that smart car, and then we also had sorry, Byron, I bought a truck from Byron, a Japanese truck that I painted Costa, and the truck burnt down. But it was all these fun cars, because our branding in the store was like, you go somewhere and the house was turned into a boutique or a microbrewery, and this building was just it just said local, family owned, fun place, and the reggae colors. We did all the cars there so you could tie it to the building.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, so those vehicles went too.
All these years
we probably had about 400 surfboards and stand-up paddleboards, because we prided ourselves in having the biggest selection for like people who actually surfed really good. And we were probably known as the place to buy a used surfboard from. I mean, yes, anyone in Lahaina, they're sending them to our store because we had the rental fleet and so on. And so everything from people needing special swim shorts or fins because their kids are learning to swim at the Lahaina pool. There's not a whole lot in Lahaina, and so they'll come there, or the kids, looking for their first shortboard, or, Kaina Shiki came to my place and bought a longboard for her 16-year-old daughter. We were really entwined, and that made me really proud, because, being from here and having all these, it was really tied into the community, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, so we had the fire, then you found out. What do you estimate your losses? I mean, ballpark. I mean, we don't want anything detailed, but like ballpark, being a small business owner on Maui, what do you estimate, and what are you going through right now? Like, how's the insurance? How's FEMA, SBA? I know this is new for you. Tell us how you're navigating these waters.
It's very it's very wearing, because it's just I tell you, before I answer that, I just want to, with anyone that I'm bumping into now, like the Nagasaki I met, I just said, you're not alone, because we're just so scared that we don't know, and we lost everything, and then you're used to trying to taking on things yourself, that those phone calls, texts, and messages were great because it gave me just enough confidence, like an adrenaline shot thing. Okay, I can do this. I can do this. But going back to the paperwork, our insurance guy called us up right away. We're underinsured. I'd say about a third of the inventory we're going to get reimbursed for. The property's owned by another company. We had always been in talks about eventually buying it from them. Now that the thing's just flattened, and that's not their main business, I just don't know. I mean, I've got a great relationship with them. I'm praying that they'd be open-minded to saying, hey, if you want to try and do something on the lot or building or something like that, but they might just flat out say, we don't want to deal with it, which means I lost the land underneath the business I could build on. So I have no idea on, and trying to find another place. That's really one of the issues that a lot of people need to talk about. I was talking about that COVID because my friend got shut down with her little jewelry store on Front Street, but she had to pay that high rent the whole time. And I said, we should get a bigger lot and approach the county and put 5 or 6 small businesses, kind of like how Kalama Village was, and own the land underneath the business, because we can't afford Front Street. There's no small business
opportunities.
I don't want to say low income business, but there's nothing. And so maybe it's a good talk for them to bring up, which is, hey, let's designate some land and put all these, because they probably won't be able to afford to go back to Front Street, to be honest with you. I mean, it's going to probably cost a lot of money to rebuild that. And
it's not really possible to rebuild Front Street because the way the setbacks are, even the ones that are across the street from the ocean, you couldn't build the way the current setbacks are. I mean, there's been a lot of talk, but there's not a specific plan of action. And obviously, Lahaina town's in the midst of grieving. They're not going to be ready to, have those in-depth discussions yet. But, other places that they've had disasters, that codes have changed and there's no way to rebuild, they generally have a rule of aesthetic that they have to apply to. And then there's, like you'd probably call it something along the lines of the Lahaina District Disaster Code. And it would be good for, 10 to 15 years. It would be a variance that allowed you to build what you had there. And even though it's a variance on the current set of code, I don't really see it as too much of an issue because it's like 10 feet high there. It's not like 4 feet high above ocean level. It's, pretty well protected. I don't know how the federal government would work with those things that are across the street from the ocean, that are on the ocean itself. So those might not be able to be built ever, no matter what. I do know that there's oftentimes special dispensations for disaster scenarios. But of course, a lot of those major discussions haven't happened yet. And I'm interested to see what ends up happening. But there's so many weird scenarios here. A lot of people are worried about eminent domain and having their properties taken away from them. A lot of the properties in there are second homes, though. They're not necessarily live-in residents, but still, even though they're second homes, they were filled with Maui people because they were rentals, and
that's one of the things that I'm just praying and I'm really concerned about is the families that have homes on Lahaina Luna Road. Because if you ask anyone, where's a reasonable place that, my son can rent a room or a ohana or a cottage, being that's not a CCNR landscape committee, blah, 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 tract development, that they allow those people to be able to kind of somewhat rebuild what they had, because they've got family members and, multiple families on a property. That's the only way we can survive to live. So I'm praying that they keep that in mind and don't like turn it into some big tract development saying that they're doing this great idea. And then all those people realize, they go, wow, there's no place for my son to live or my nephew or something like that. Because that was a beauty of that Lahaina area and the Waihaklui area, is that, you could find a place to live and it was somewhat reasonable and everyone kind of worked out a good deal.
Yeah.
But going back to
those
paperwork real quick.
seminars.
So we went straight to FEMA and filled out with FEMA, but then FEMA, because it's a business, directed us to the SBA, and then we're filling out the thing with SBA, so they're pushing us into loans, and they're not talking to anything about replacement or grants or helping in that area. So now we're in the process of filling out SBA loans, I guess. And then after we do whatever we do with the SBA, then we got to go back to FEMA. And so we have no clue. And there's like you're saying, with all the balls in the air, my goal is, to my last breath, I want my store, but some kind of version of that store, because it's just part of who I am and part of my friends and my family and the community. And it's just, that's where I want to be. But I just the logistics right now, it's just kind of like, well, I just lost my, paying myself a job, and I lost all the stuff that, I just got to kind of wait it out and see what I can get replaced. I still have a huge loan from COVID. I had a big EIDL loan, and a lot of that was inventory in the store and, getting enough employees to work the stuff. And so now I don't even know. So I'm going to take another loan. I still got to pay the other loan. And I don't know. It's beyond my education level.
Yeah. One of the things, have you talked to your previous loan? Because oftentimes there's an insurance policy built into that loan that if your store burns to the ground, it basically nullifies it. But of course, 100%, that's a question for your insurance and, more importantly, your loan, that you were with previously.
So, Mike, Maui, do you feel like right now you're kind of in limbo with your life, with the business? Because are you getting any communication? It sounds like you're just sitting there kind of like, I don't really know what to do. I'm doing the steps of SBA, FEMA, you know what I mean? But I don't know if I'm ever going to be billed there. It sounds like that. Is that what you're going through right now?
Absolutely. Yeah, I just absolutely just, and I'm trying to do what responsibly I'm trying to do. But it's just too many questions to answer. And I don't want, I understand that, they got a lot to do in that area and so like that. And just stuff that's not important to most people, but like, so when the fire happened, and then all those, like the tourists are in hotels, they told them get out. I was getting calls like, hey, here's a picture of your 2 surfboards. They wouldn't let me put it in storage at the Sheraton, so it's behind the bushes at the front door. And so I'm wondering, okay, my surfboard's in the front door, but then I couldn't get to Lahaina, and then and last thing I want to do is call anyone, like, or even because I'm like, I understand this is the last thing that's important. I just say like that. But somewhere down the line, it'd be nice to be able to retrieve some of these things that are not in the Lahaina fire area or something like that. And so we're able to retrieve a few boards and so on. But like, we've got 6 boards that are, sitting on to the side of homes at Puamana that didn't burn down. But, I don't know. I don't even know how to ask, let alone, and I don't want to be a burden, but
that's the last
6
of
months
anything
now,
you have.
I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation, because I understand it's not important, but I don't have anything, and it'd be nice to recover something.
Well, it is important because, what else do you have at this point, and you got to start from somewhere. It's nice to be able to have a little piece of the past in addition to the actual item itself. But no, it's the only connection you have left to your business. And what do you do at this point? Because getting an SBA loan, you'd basically be wanting to work more on a mobile basis, because it'll probably be years and years before another physical location is available. So, if you could just have it as a lot, sure. I suppose you could be operating mobily out of vehicles and, maybe getting more of those Japanese style vehicles, and, you rent the whole car with surfboards and everything. It's a package,
But if I had a dream situation, it would be if the highway opened up, and that's off the highway, that I could, put a food truck there, do my shave ice and hot dogs and stuff, and get a Matson container, and so for the surf equipment and stuff, and then just kind of fence in the area a little bit, and then hopefully maybe see if that company would ever sell me the property, and then rebuild. That'd be the dream situation. I I really just don't know what to do because I don't. Lahaina's my home. I mean, Lahaina is the best place to go surfing year round. And there's always waves along the coastline. I have no interest in being on Kahului side or south side or something like that. And job wise and stuff, I don't know. I'm gonna just have to figure it out. But I definitely would like to work on this Maui local businesses because I think I've really defined it, which is not to insult anyone, but a Maui local business is where the owners live on Maui.
Yeah.
A Hawaii local business is where the owners live in Hawaii. It's not saying anything bad about anyone or anything like that, but we're the ones who are paying for our kids to go to school and the grocery stores and our mortgage and all that stuff. And a large amount of that money will stay on Maui, where someone's just,
It's 100% basically. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just paying rent and labor, but the rest is just leaving the island. So it's, you still got Maui made and you got all these things, but I don't think anyone's ever defined it like that. And I think it's a fair and honest approach to saying, if you live here and your business is here, that's pretty much a local business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. And, Richard Bisson went to school with my brother and I at St. Anthony. So I just, and a lot of my friends have local businesses and stuff said, that's something that they could be along with. So maybe I'll just start to kind of work on that. And so when they do rebuild or something, maybe they can, kind of help the local businesses. I don't say first, but, help them some way.
What happened when you talked to the current landowner? I mean, what is their thoughts on the situation? I know
we're still drawing up a letter because I don't want to say it's a touchy situation, but I got to be careful what I ask for or say. So I'm like writing it up and then having someone read it and stuff because there's a lot of things people understand about businesses unless you have it. Like, so we were required to have insurance to be able to rent there. But then they got this thing called CAM, and the CAM pays their property taxes. They actually take it out of the CAM and also pays for their insurance on that property. So in a sense, I'm paying for two insurances. So I don't know, I had heard from other landowners that when a landowner owns a commercial building, they actually have to insure my merchandise in case their wiring burned down. So it's not that so just to ask, like, hey, I'm not here to hurt you or whatever, but is there anything in your insurance that can help me? Because it was kind of tied to, so
that's typically one of the things that your insurance company is, tacked with reaching out to them to find out how to settle in the most part of it, and what type of because that's the thing that is interesting about most insurances is the United States is probably overinsured in most situations. And CAM is a very good point in that. So, absolutely reaching out to them and be like, look, I know this is, and tell it like it is. It's certainly a lot more difficult for you because that was your everyday. To them, it was a check that would come in the mail, and I'm sure there's some connection to the property, but they're not the person that was there day in and day out.
The guys that own us own the lot next to me, and so they're the gas company.
Yeah.
And so they're out of business in Lahaina as well. And they're obviously they're very successful and my property was just probably an investment property just because it was next to theirs. So I know that they're concerned about renting out that lot. It's probably the last thing on their mind. And I got to be aware of that. I'm just like, hey, just want the communication going back and forth. And I know there's a lot of balls in the air and stuff like that, but just, would appreciate it if you could just give me some thoughts of possibilities in the future that we can talk about, because I tell you, I really actually like them very much because I've been with them for about 15, 16 years, and they have always had I could pick up the phone and call them and I think they feel the same about me. So, hopefully, we'll see. And if not, I guess somewhere else in Lahaina or Kaanapali or I don't know, wherever, something like that, maybe I might be able to find a location I can build on.
Has all your employees gotten out safe and okay from this event?
Yeah. And that's really my main concern over everything right now is, obviously I got a daughter that's going to school and my employees, one's been with me since 2003. And so they all, luckily, they're all out. They've got a roof over their shoulders. I'm having them go on unemployment and you know, a lot of them were actually more distraught than me because I'm a little bit more logical. And I just, that's the thing too. It's like when you're grieving for something, you know, it affects people differently. And being that I haven't really been on the property or something, I just almost feel strange that I'm handling this logically because everything I had to my name was upstairs at that store because I was living there for a long period of time after a divorce. And so all my childhood picture, I mean, I basically lost my home on top of my store. But my employees, God, there's so much like family and they're distraught and stuff. And yeah, I just, you know, you got this crew of people that you've been taking care of and building something with, and I don't really have answers and they don't expect it, but it's a real mess. This whole
That's the
thing
hard thing is for
it's
everybody
horrible.
to figure out what they're going to do for the future and motivate themselves for the new opportunities that are out there. Because I mean, that's the only thing you really can do at this point is, you know, pick up the pieces of the life that you had and look to the future to create a new one. And that's really the only thing that you can do is sometimes you have to start over at square one. I mean, at the end of the day, the building is gone and you don't have that business anymore. So certainly you can pick up the pieces and do something, but this is no longer like, you know, one day we're going to do this. So you got to think of it as like, this is day one. This is my chance. This is my start. And I got to make a plan for the future. And I think, you know, that's what you got to do is you got to reach out to them, you know, today. And the first thing, and while these conversations are hard to have, given how hurt everybody is by this, they need to happen. You know, they need to be worked out. And of course, it is even made doubly hard by the fact that the whole town, we don't know what the plan is for rebuilding or going forward, or how federal funds are going to be playing into this 100%. Because this is, you know, the cleanup alone is going to be over $1 billion and take, you know, 1 or more years. What are you going to do with the millions of metric tons of, you know, basically toxic waste? You're basically going to have to ship it off to some other country, or, you know, find a dump somewhere, you know, dig a hole in the ground and put it, or, you know, convert the ash into a form of concrete to build who knows what. So there's a lot of very difficult issues, but having that conversation first with your landowner and see what their plans are is going to be an important one. So I definitely say reach out to them. And like I said, today's day one, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Maui, how do we, you know, this is a process. Do you have a GoFundMe? Do you have an email? How can people reach out to you if they want to support you? I know I've seen some on social media. I'm not there that much, but tell us how we can, as a community, because that's our important thing right now we're doing. We want to share the stories of business owners in Lahaina, people in Lahaina, everyone in Lahaina that we can touch that, hey, how can we as a community, because you know how Maui works, right? I live in Kahului. It's like another world. We're all going to work, celebrating or whatever, up country or whatever. You know, it's totally different. We don't see because we only see images, not the story. So how can we support? Because this is going to be a long haul, whether it's financially or mentally. What can we do as a community to help you, Maui?
So we do have social media. We have a website, mausbeachhouse.com. On Facebook, we're Maui's Beach House. Maui's Beach House. Instagram, we're Maui's Beach House. And we have all the information pinned to there. And anything helps. Even just a shout out of hello means the world to us.
Yeah.
If anyone's connected to, I don't even know who would be, you know, but if anyone's connected to future resources of a place to be able to build a business on, or a property that a bunch of us local businesses can eventually buy and build something or something like that. But anyone who's got that, I tell you, there's a lot of really scared small businesses out there, you know, friends of mine and stuff. And, you know, all I can do is just tell them and say, hey, if we have to pool our resources or, you know, go in on something together or whatever. But if there was someone who could create at least a conversation and say, you know, it really would be a good investment in the community, creating, I don't want to call it land, but or some, you know, loan or something that we could buy a strip of land and, you know, put some local businesses on, and actually maybe help some of these businesses maybe own the land underneath the business. You know, instead, you know, it's being at the mercy of wondering if you're going to get kicked out the next month because they decide to get more rent or whatever the case is. So,
you know, it's an interesting concept too, because we started a community land trust in Nahalio, Maui, and it's like affordable housing in perpetuity. And it's actually leasehold. It's owned by a 501c3 and it's shared ownership with the tenant that's in there. But the cool thing is when they buy property in the future, like, you know, another house that's technically still a first-time home buyer, wonder if there's something like that that can be done where, you know, a piece of commercial land is owned in partnership with the businesses that are there so that it's more affordable to operate and, you know, is specifically designed for locally owned and operated businesses as opposed to having to be, you know, working with other major mainland franchises that are, you know, hard to compete with. You know, sometimes a lot of these businesses from the mainland can run into a situation and run at a deficit for a decade and not have to be profitable, which that's just not an option for a local business. So I totally see what you're saying there. You know,
a connection or conversation that can be brought to it would be a godsend. I mean, just because I'm just not, I want to know even where to go with that, but I do understand the concept from almost everyone I know. They're going, gosh, you know, if I just could, you know, somewhat own the land or whatever the case is, so I could get my payments down lower, so I'm not so stressed about the business, and I can, you know, build the business where I want to do and so on. But it can help local business owners have a place to do business.
It's interesting you mentioned that because one of the lifebloods, besides the people themselves in their homes, was all the small businesses in Lahaina. It was more important there than anywhere else. I mean, if you really look at it, there wasn't any really big box companies there besides Safeway and the Foodlands. You know, every time you went to Lahaina is because I want to go to Maui shop or I want to go to the bakery or surfing and come to something. So I'm really hoping that they really understand that the small business is the lifeblood of the business community in Lahaina.
Yeah, and I think when going back to this, you know, Maui local businesses, I can help identify a lot of businesses that, like I said, they live here, they've had a business here for a long period of time, you know, and there's a lot of them there on Front Street that whatever happens Front Street like that, they're not going to be able to get that family. I mean, there's businesses that have been there 40 or 50 years, 2 or 3 generations that sell, you know, aloha wear, or there's a scrimshaw guy and there's some business like that. But everything else popping around is, you know, a large mart or someone's skin creams and corporate store. And it was starting to lose the charm there. And, you know, you got to ask, well, where did these companies go? Well, that's why they have such a big open market at the Lahaina Gateway on Sundays. That's the only place a low-income business can go is Kalama Village, swap meet, and craft fairs. We have to set up and break down. But that's where they're headed. And if you're a restaurant, they're on food truck lots because brick and mortar is not available for small to mid-sized local businesses. And the signs of the times have been in front of us for the last 10, 20 years, and it sees where it's going. And I think it's time. And then dealing with, you know, typical codes and stuff like signage and stuff, you know, I can't tell you, my local businesses just got, before COVID, were just really having a hard time to be able to have more than one sign on a brick and mortar spot. And I'm thinking, you know, why are they so hard on these guys? You know, if they're a local owned business and they live here and they stuff like that, you go, shouldn't they give them a little leeway? Or it's just like, you know, okay, you know, you're not good at social media and you need drive-by business, you know, and so a group of local businesses would be able to kind of have a better conversation than one person dealing with the planning department or one person dealing with that. But the connection, you guys got connections, man. We could use that. That'd be huge.
I guess the main thing is everybody, including the homeowners and the small businesses, have a seat at the table to define, like they're saying, define what Lahaina is going to be in the future, and you all work together, you know, because it is a sad, tragic event. We have lives lost, but we also have businesses lost. It's a combination of things that hopefully the community can get together and work with the state and the federal to put this as a better vision for Lahaina, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the concepts of going forward is, previously the major issue, of course, was a lack of parking. And the way things were divided up is there's obviously the major shortfall of residential locations. And so other business models that have been working is actually live work scenarios where you have residential upstairs and commercial downstairs. The idea is to have, the ability to have a connected town where people live and work all together. So, whether or not they have to move the town a little bit further away from the ocean, or maybe make that whole front street not available to cars and only a walking community, more, transportation, like maybe a small little rail system that could get there from a offsite parking area. So make it a large walking community in addition to shops that are spread out. So it's just more interconnected where you can live and work. That's, I think, one of the visions and hopes for the future. But one of the things I would like to see people do is, because we put this on many platforms, is for them in the comments below. If you have an idea, you want them to reach out to you, if you want to help, or if you have an idea, if you're a small business, please post in the comments. Definitely let us know, what you want to see, vision for the future. And of course, this is really more for people who live here. How do you want to see your town evolve and change? Because at the end of it, this is the tough part. We have to have these discussions, and we have to come with these solutions together. So we are at about our time here, and I wanted to thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming and telling your story, and I definitely, will be reaching out to you if I come across, a good opportunity to hooey up with other business owners.
Absolutely. Good word. Yeah, no, thank you so much, both of you. Byron, always good seeing you, brother.
Yeah, and I appreciate you, Maui. Reach out to me, and everyone understand, we're having conversations with the community of the people of Lahaina, whether it's a business, a home, or a family member, because the main goal I wanted to do, and I talked to Clint about it, was share the stories of the people that were there, all the stories that want to be shared, and let's work together to figure this thing out.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man. If there's anything I can do for you guys or other businesses or even people there, to help get a voice out, or, let me know. I'm all in. I'm here till my last breath.
All right.
This is my home. And thank you so much, you guys.
Hey, aloha. Thank you, Maui, Mike. And thank you, Byron. I really appreciate you setting this up. And again, I'm Clint Hansen with Maui Real Estate Radio, and thank you for joining us. Listen to this where any and all of your podcasts are. And of course, you can always go to mauirealestateradio.com. Aloha.